Okay, so here we are at a house. This is not a real estate transaction. Um, this is a homeowner who actually bought it relatively recently. Knew from their home inspection that there were some questions about the structure, some irregular floors, and there's definitely some cracking here in the front. But after purchasing, they contacted some foundation companies who had differing explanations about what needed to be done. In particular, wanted to do some pretty $50,000 worth of underpinning, which is supporting the back of the house. So I'm just going to go through and summarize what I learned by doing this assessment because it's fairly interesting. Um, in the end, underpinning is completely inappropriate for this, although there is some work that may need to be done. So right off the bat, the house looks quite square from the front. There's a conspicuous set of cracks here at the front. The shape of that is sort of A-shaped. Is that section of brick is falling, meaning there's probably a foundation, localized foundation failure. The rest of the brick looks okay. There's also some small cracks associated, but there's some movement here. And if you go in the garage, as I walk around here, the garage slab is definitely shifted. So the soil under the slab isn't good, but that's a different issue. Here, this is on the inside of the garage. Let me find my flashlight where that crack is. But you can see that that's actually the foundation, and it's cracked and it has shifted. And you can see that the sill plate itself is, the bottom plate, is kind of suspended there where it sits on that crack. So this is a localized failure of the foundation. And also there is bad soil or settlement underneath the slab. So this does call for some underpinning, but it's not like the whole garage area, but certainly push piers or helical, or even you could dig this out and just put a massive concrete underneath this once you dug down to support that better. Incidentally, the cause of that, because it's so localized, could have to do with some kind of water issue in the past, because the well is over this way, and I'm guessing that the water line runs underneath that, but we don't know. Heading inside, taking measurements, the interior floors in this house were within about 1.5 inches. That's the maximum, which isn't that unusual, but there are some definite conditions which are very noticeable as you walk. In this area towards the middle of the house, there's a localized ramp up, and at the back of the house it definitely dips down, which is probably why the contractor at the back was suggesting underpinning. But if you go to the back of the house here, you'll see, and based on some other measurements that I took, that going out to the back of the house here, close that because there's a cat. What you'll see is that the back of the house is on a cantilever. So the back 2 feet of the house actually projects beyond the foundation. This is like an architectural detail that was pretty popular maybe in the 70s. Certainly see it from that period. But anyway, the weight of the house is pushing down and causing the very back of the house to deflect downward. It's not that the foundation has sunk. It's just that the cantilever is a little weak. It's a little bit of a defect. So, underpinning that, getting under the foundation would be completely wrong and a waste of money, because that's not the problem. Another issue that I observed is that, I mentioned this first, is that in this area, the floor is very irregular right here. And upstairs, as you go up to the second floor, you have quite a bit of dip going this way across this hallway. So it slopes down this way. The cause of this is probably a couple different factors. One thing is if you go up in the attic, so it's lower on this side. If you go up in the attic, the trusses, a couple trusses were cut for this opening, which is wrong. So you probably have some roof load pushing down on this wall, which is pushing the floor down. The other thing is that as I head down below that, is there's a little bit of a misalignment between this wall here. This is the load-bearing wall for the second floor. And the beam for this wall is over here. And so the weight of that upper floor is pushing down on the joists and causing some irregularity. As I go into the basement here, I'm going to point out just how confident I am of this diagnosis, is that the foundation, you can see almost all of it. You can see the beam. I was able to measure this very accurately and see that the foundation movement is negligible. The beam is level. And so these defects are again caused by some construction like just design or building defects, which are becoming more noticeable over time. So my recommendation certainly is no underpinning, but the cantilever doesn't even need fixing. It's not essential, but to do it, you need to reinforce those joists as they go out of the back of the house. So as your joists go out there and it sticks out 2 feet past the foundation, adding additional joists back there will strengthen it. Upstairs, solving the floor issue up there isn't as easy. Certainly you can fix the trusses that are broken. That should take some weight off of that wall. But beyond that, it's more a matter of making the floor level rather than doing any real structural repair. You could sister joists underneath the low areas to reinforce it, but that's pretty expensive for what you gain. So what can be done, another recommendation, is taking up some of the wood floor. You can probably sand down the subfloor to just make it more, less noticeable, I would say. But in summary here, came out to this house to determine whether or not, this $50,000 of underpinning was necessary. Certainly not. But there are some defects here that nothing really needs to be done, but I can see why somebody might want to improve some of this, and certainly during ownership, it might be a good idea to plan for or budget for some of these improvements.